This is Caribbean vibe.
Come on, Rosa. Everybody now to the table. Mommy say help yourself. I see Grandpa take down the bottle. He was hiding from on the shelf. Mr. Social say he ain't eating. He shout, I'm as filled as an egg. But in the West Coast pocket he hiding a bowl of songs and a turkey leg. Christmas a time to be loving. Christmas a time to be giving. Christmas a time to be sharing. Oh Lord, I feel so get neighbor, neighbor. Neighbor, come on over and fetch. Neighbor, neighbor. Neighbor, come on party and fetch. Neighbor, neighbor. Come on everybody and fetch. Neighbor, neighbor. Neighbor, neighbor. I say come. Neighbor, neighbor. Neighbor, neighbor. Neighbor, neighbor. Show me para, show me para, show me para, show me para. Ay, 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 oy, oy, oy. 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 Show me. Ay, hey, diggy, day, 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 day. And I'm feeling fine. I hear carols playing on the radio. Little children singing sweet melodies too. It tells me that Christmas time is near. Feel the cool breeze in the air. Look how the children having fun. For Santa came and gone. Johnny cake baking and the sorrel brewing. Oh, it's Christmas morning and I enjoying the feeling. Just what about you? Oh, it's Christmas morning.
Hello. Good evening and welcome. Today we are here to talk about the WolBES and FinBES proposal. Yes, you okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. A law that shapes how our island is governed and how decisions are made. During tonight's community session, I will be asking different people questions about their thoughts and concern about these changes. My name is Caris Ronday from GIS, and I will be your host. Tonight we have Commissioner Simmons with us.
Council member.
Council member, sorry, my apologies. I'm a bit nervous. um, the first questions that we have, the Island Council has, sorry, the Island Council has recently stated, referred directly to Article 209 of the WolBES, which clearly state that the Dutch ministry first consult with the island government before adopting any rules, policy, or regulations that directly affect the best islands. This article isn't symbolic. It means to ensure that the local government have a real voice in shaping laws and policies that impact the administration, finance, and the lives of the residents. Yet, according to the Council's statement, this legal obligation for consultation has not been fully respected during the drafting and presentation of the new WolBES and FinBES amendments. From your perspective, why do you believe the process fell short of a genuine consultation?
Thank you, and good day to the listeners. My opinion is I believe I'm very clear on this topic because nothing new. The position, um, what have happened with the consultation, it's a behavior that keeps going over and over. We have a issue with trust. We are a political body. We represent the people. We are the voice. But it gives the impression that that voice is not respected. So when things like this happens, we have no choice but to let our voice be heard. And this is a way of letting that voice be heard. Personally, it gives the impression that nothing's happening. It nothing will happen, but um, you have to try because nothing beats a trial than a failure.
I have to admit, I surely agree with that. Um, I have one more question. Beyond issuing press release and public statement, how can the ISOM Council take active steps to push a renewed and genuine consultation process with the Netherlands? In other words, what concrete action can Statia take to ensure the message moved beyond words?
Well, it's from our point standpoint, it's sometimes very difficult
Understand.
because I always look at if you could financially run your own business, your own government, we wouldn't be here. So it has to do with our development, which they have a responsibility to do. But in reality, it don't happen. And I see it as how you'd say, baby steps.
Yes.
It might take years, might take months, maybe can happen tomorrow. For example, within short, there's a election taking place,
Indeed.
which the players we are talking to now can change. So constantly things are changing, and sometimes they change real fast, sometimes overnight, and that is the dilemma we're in. So we are basically working with the situation that we have, like the hand you're dealt, and trying to make the best of it.
Okay.
And often, it looks as if, you're not doing anything, you're complaining, and people will see you go on the plane, come back, and, they will say, hey, they are wasting money, or whatever. I particularly don't just jump on a plane and go wherever. I voice my opinion, I voice my concern, and often what I know is sometimes they feel very uncomfortable when they see your face again. And then it tells me they might not be responding, but at least they're hearing you and something is getting through.
That is true. I would like to repeat, Rome was not built in one day, so I completely understand what you're saying. Um, Thank you very much for sharing your time and your perspective on this matter. And I would like to welcome our next Island Council, Ms. Raquel Spanacarti. I will take it. No, I think you just put it up. Yes, it's on. Yes? Okay, thank you. With me here is Ms. Raquel Spanacarti. Thank you for joining me shortly. Just a few short questions to hear what your perspective is or today's topic. Yes? In the ISON Council stated members emphasize the urgent need for the Ministry of Besetka to honor the agreements that were previously reached with former State Secretary Alexander van Huffelen. These agreements were seen as important steps towards building a more equal and transparent working relationship between the Netherlands and the island government, especially around issues of autonomy, financial supervisor, and local participation in decision making. From your perspective, have those commitments been fully respected and in the current reformal process?
Hello, good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me. Hello? Okay, sorry about that. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out. And thank you, Ms. Ronday, for giving me this opportunity and this platform, along with GIS. In answering your question, when we went to the build in 2023, I think it was shortly after the elections, it was a show of good faith. We had the opportunity to really engage. We literally had a seat at the table. We were listened to, and we shared this platform within the best constellation. So our colleagues from Saba and Statia were there, from Saba and Bonaire, were there as well. This is something that the islands have always longed for no intermediary to be able to speak and voice our opinion. Now, for that opinion to then be turned back without any consultation or even the trust that was built at that moment, for you to, even though you have that authority, to turn it back the way that it was done, kind of came over like it was a smokescreen, that what we got was not really what we thought we got. And so it came over, it was a disappointment to know that it didn't go the way that you planned. And we must know too that at the time, the State Secretary van Huffelen was a demotionaire position because the government had fallen, but we got the reassurance that she had the authority to make those decisions with us. So we came back home feeling empowered because we were part of the decision making, and we made a bold statement and step moving forward. So that was basically how it all started.
Could imagine that. It feels like taking 2 steps forward and 5 steps back. But thank you for being honest. A last question. The Island Council has repeatedly stressed the importance of a genuine consultation, not just being informed after the decision made. After the decision have already been made. In your view, what would meaningful participation in this process look like?
That is a very difficult question. As politicians, Ms. Ronday, we strive to get our people more involved. And I would not quite use the word a genuine consultation, because they have adhered to the law by allowing us to have a consultation. The law does not state how it is done. And as politicians, we struggle with that daily. Our community lacks daily involvement. A lot of times they think this does not include me, or this does not influence my life in any way. So as politicians, we struggle that every 4 years when there's elections, and it's exciting that our community engages, and after that they just let it be. We too struggle with getting our communities involved. If you look at a night like tonight, the attendance is not what you would wish for. So we were given the opportunity, or we are given the opportunity until October 27th to voice our opinions. And I hope that in some way this evening would allow our community to understand exactly what is going on and to make it easier for them to become engaged and speak out on what matters to them, not us as politicians. We will go, but you will stay.
Wow, that's a very strong statement. And just to recap, I completely agree with Ms. Raquel Spanacarty. And to all here and at home, once again, it is maybe hard to read between the lines, but ask questions, speak up. It's our law, it's our future, and our voices does matter as well. So Ms. Raquel Spanakati, thank you so much for your perspective.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, enjoy your evening. Yes, with me tonight. Hello? Hello? Yes, okay. With me tonight, Mr. Glenn Smith. Thank you for your time. Just a quick question for tonight. The consult period for the WolBES and FinBES reform is officially open till October 27, 2025, giving residents the opportunity to share the view directly with the Hague. Now, how is the Island Council planning to engage and inform the public about this process, especially those who may not fully understand what the reform means or the effect on the daily life of Statia?
All right, thank you very much for the opportunity. Well, this evening's program, I think, is one of the important ways that we are trying to reach the community of Statia with the information regarding the WolBES FinBES. The WolBES FinBES is not totally unknown to the community of Statia because that's the law that's governing these islands since 2010 and governing our relationship with The Hague. Of course, the fine details may not be known to everyone, but what we are seeing now, that there is a need. Over the years, we've talked a lot about how the law is functioning for the islands, and so we've come to the point where we've decided that there needs to be certain changes made. And this is the process that we are in now. And of course, right now we have some struggles between the parties, but we are trying to, through this session and others like this, I imagine we will have more sessions to inform the public, as to what exactly it means, the WolBES, the changes that we want, the changes that were proposed, and why we are in this sort of a conflict right now. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. The Island Council recently stated, reflecting back to Article 209 of the WolBES, which clearly state that the Dutch ministry must first consult with the islands before a result is made. I already asked this to your colleague, but I also want to know your perspective on this question. What do you believe this process felt short on the consultation? Not sure if I didn't say it correctly, clearly.
The consultation fell short. That's what you.
Yeah. So the normally the procedure is for the Island Council to be informed before a statement is made. However, in this case, it was passed by, to use that word. How does that make you feel? What is your perspective on that?
Well, the point is that we had prior consultations with the previous state secretary. We came to agreements with her, back in 2024. And we are of the opinion that if you're going to make changes, then you must again consult with the Island Council. You cannot make changes unilaterally, so just one side deciding what changes are going to be made. You have to come back and consult with the islands. This whole matter pertains to the rights, what we call the right of self-determination of the islands. It means that we have a right to determine our future. We have a right to determine how we want to organize our government, our relationships in the kingdom, etc. So we have to be party to that discussion. You cannot decide things about us and we are not part of the discussion. And this is what the process right now we are in, trying to establish the fact that all parties understand that we have rights and our rights also need to be respected and we need to be heard before decisions are made.
I completely agree. Thank you so much for sharing your time and perspective with us. For everyone watching, thank you. Don't go away yet. We still have an amazing session for you left. May you have any questions, may this topic bring any wonders, please feel free to join us. You're still on time. And the word is back to my colleague.
Good evening. Can you hear me now? Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Tina Lopes from GIS Statia, and I'm your moderator for this evening for this very important dialogue on the WolBES FinBES. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our esteemed members of the Island Council member Mr. Glenville Smith, Island Council member Mr. Derek Simmons, and Island Council member Raquel Spanakati. I would also like to welcome all the members of the general public who have joined us here at the Lion's Den and those of you who are viewing online. Thank you for making the time to participate in this critical conversation about our island's future. The goal tonight is simple: to inform you, our community, on the proposed revisions of the WolBES and FinBES laws, and to bring your voice into the process. Tonight's community dialogue on these laws means that they are very important for our island. The aim is to inform the community about the WolBES FinBES, also to explain the imposed changes, the island councils and the island council's perspective, and to facilitate an open dialogue and to hear your views and questions. This opportunity was created not just to hear your concerns, but to work with you. The goal is to bring a strong connection between your elected leaders and you, the community they serve. Who doesn't love being involved? Being a part of the process makes you a part of the movement. I would like now to call on our islands registrar, Melissa Spanner Robbins, to properly set the stage for the discussions where she will enlighten you on how we got here. Melissa, the floor is yours.
Let me just get my... Thank you. Good evening and welcome once more, everyone. This part of the presentation, by the way, my name is Melissa Robbins. I am the Island Registrar of Statia. Today we will be giving a presentation. This part of the presentation relating to the revision of the WolBES and FinBES laws is more of an introduction and a bit of a way to shape and form how we got to the point where we are at now. So our first slide, as you can see, is called How Did We Get Here? And then we're going to take a brief look back in history. You might be wondering what this is all about. How does this affect me as a citizen or a civil servant? And what the Island Council or the Executive Council is actually doing. I say this because you might have seen news articles or you might have heard one or two things being spoken about during Island Council meetings. And as a citizen, it is important for you to also understand what your government is doing or is facing in times when there are challenges. To better understand what this is all about, we'll take a step back through history and break down some of the factors that have brought us where we are today. The journey of our constitutional status. In 1954, the Netherlands Antilles was formed, which consisted of islands Aruba, Curaçao, Bonaire, Sint Eustatius, Sint Maarten, and Saba. The Netherlands Antilles gained internal self-government, managing its own internal affairs. Then in 1986, Aruba became a separate country within the kingdom. Between the year 2000 and 2009, there was referenda. Constitutional reform process took place, and referenda was held on all islands. And that leads us to October 2010, which is ironically tomorrow, October 10th, will make it, I believe, 15 years since the dissolution of the Netherlands Antilles. Curaçao and Sint Maarten, just like Aruba, became countries within the kingdom. Bonaire, Statia, and Saba then became what we now know as the BES construct. They all became public entities, otherwise sometimes called special municipalities of the Netherlands. What is the WolBES and the FinBES? What is it actually? Well, they are laws, but there are many laws. Actually, there are over 200 and something BES laws. So why are we talking about specifically WolBES and FinBES today? WolBES stands for the Wet Openbare Lichaam Sint Eustatius, which is in Dutch. In the main law, it's the main law that describes how the islands of Bonaire, Sint Eustatius, and Saba are governed. It sets out the roles of the Island Council, the Executive Council, and the Island Governor, and explains how decisions are made, how elections work, and how the islands relate to the Dutch government. FinBES stands for Wet Financiën BES, otherwise known as the Finance Act. This law explains how the island's finances are managed, including how money is budgeted,
how Dutch funds are used, because we also have money that comes in through the Netherlands for specific projects, and how financial supervision works. Most laws are accompanied with an explanatory note. In the explanatory note of the WolBES on page 6, you can find a passage that talks about that the law would have been revisited and reviewed after 5 years of its use. However, this would never come to pass. While the WolBES has undergone several small changes over the years, the first time a major overhaul of the law was about to take place was in 2023, which is actually 13 years after the law was implemented. So the law has never really been reviewed or discussed after its implementation to see how it works or what should be adjusted or what can be done better or what is not going well. To understand how BES laws are or how they come to be a reality, sometimes it's also important to understand the process of that. The process for a BES law is 1, the law, after drafted by the relevant ministry in the Netherlands. The law is then drafted by the relevant ministry. So depending on what the law is about is which ministry will create a draft law for that particular thing. A consultation period is then provided, typically between 4 or 10 weeks, depending on how vast the change is, how big it is, or what it's about. Then the law is sent on to the Council of State, otherwise known in Dutch as the Raad van State, who will then provide advice on the law. After that, the law is then debated and approved in the second chamber in the Netherlands, and then the final stage of approval is given by the first chamber. Interesting to know is in the second chamber, they are allowed to make amendments, but they can also disapprove of a law. And in the event you wonder what happens when a law is disapproved in the second chamber, the government of the Netherlands can then decide or to revisit and try again, maybe to make certain adjustments, or they can also say, we scrap it totally and we won't be bringing it back. Typically, the second chamber doesn't really disapprove. If they disagree with certain things, they tend to make amendments to the law. So they have the opportunity to amend. In the final stage of approval, as I just mentioned, is in the first chamber. They cannot amend. They can only approve and disapprove. The law is then solidified by a royal decree and published on the Staatsblad. The law is then implemented on the BES. Interesting to know in this process, where does the consultation for the islands take place? Well, if you ask yourself that question, the only opportunity you might have to provide feedback on any law that's created for our island is during the consultation period, which normally takes place online on internetconsultatie.nl. You might have 4 weeks, you might have 10 weeks. Most of the time, we're not even aware that a law is in consultation. So the people of Statia might not even be aware of certain laws being amended that they are able to give their input on. Sometimes the government is not even aware. Article 209 of the WolBES is meant to guarantee meaningful local input with the government officials. But in practice, it's not really being done in a meaningful way. As you heard our council lady mention earlier, it is not mentioned in the WolBES how the consultation is done. However, one would have to imagine how can you be effective if you don't go to that island or speak with the officials of the island or even the public in order to revise the law that they have to eventually experience and live with. How does this affect you? Well, while a law is being drafted, no consultation method other than an internet platform is provided for the local government or citizens to give input. Meanwhile, the Netherlands has 18 million people who are also allowed to comment on laws that you as a resident of Sint Eustatius will be expected to follow. The scale difference is a striking 18 million inhabitants in the Netherlands versus 30,000 people combined between Bonaire, Statia, and Saba. So 18 million people, for a visual effect, 18 million people get to also have an opinion about a law that you have to live with. As a citizen of Sint Eustatius, this form of consultation often excludes you, since you may not be aware of it, or you may have limited internet access, which restricts your ability to provide input, overlooks local complexities and needs. Law may ignore the unique social or cultural or administrative realities of the island. It destabilizes governance. Rapid or poorly planned changes can create confusion and weaken local administrative structures. Causes social disruption. Communities may feel excluded from decisions that directly affect them in their daily lives. Harms the local economy and businesses. Sudden legal changes can disrupt local markets, small businesses, and employment. Reduces trust between residents and authorities. Ignoring local input undermines confidence in government and decision-making. These are pictures that were taken last year in March. I don't know if any of you are aware, a work conference was held around the time that the law went into revision in 2023. The council came forward with their grievances from all three islands, actually, and we requested for a platform to have a better dialogue. As you can see, we also have a hashtag that we use a lot. If it's about us, not without us. During 2023, the WolBES and FinBES laws were under revision. The islands came together to strategize how they could request better dialogue and inclusion in the process, as they felt they had not been properly consulted to ensure meaningful local input. In response, the then State Secretary agreed to extend the consultation period and organize a joint meeting where all three islands could provide feedback. Each island engaged with legal advisors and created a comprehensive document containing feedback from all governmental bodies. So feedback of the governor, feedback of the commissioners, feedback of the island council. From the 4th until the 6th of March 2024, the work conference was held in the Bild, where representatives from three islands met with the State Secretary. This resulted in a shared agreement known as the Afsprakenlijst, list of agreements, that all bodies, all islands had consensus on, including with the then State Secretary at the time. The document was signed by an independent chairperson and submitted to both the first and second chamber of parliament. It is a public document and available on the second chamber's website. Since then, national elections were held and a new Dutch government was formed. To the island's surprise, the new State Secretary decided not to honor the Afsprakenlijst and instead announced that he would revisit and amend it as he deemed it necessary. In February 2025, the islands once again requested a meeting to reopen dialogue and seek a renewed consensus, and the State Secretary at that time then declined that request. On the 2nd of September 2025, the Island Council was informed by colleagues that the WolBES and the FinBES laws had once again been published online for consultation. So after we did all of this, had consensus, have an agreement list, all of a sudden the law is back online, and again, the whole consultation process has restarted. This new draft, however, included additional changes that were not part of the draft of 2023, raising renewed concerns about the consultation process and transparency. Currently, the draft is open for remarks until October 27th of this month, 2025. We have a pamphlet that we will be sharing with everyone, and this has all of the links and websites where you can access all the information that we're now discussing. In conclusion, for this part of the presentation, this concludes this part of the presentation. Please hold the line for an in-depth, detailed overview of some of the current legislative changes presented by my colleagues. So I will now welcome my colleague, Majani Humphreys, and she will continue this part of the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My role is to, as my colleague explained, to give a brief, I'll try to be brief, outline of the WolBES. I will not be going too technical because it's a lot, but if you want more information, just feel free to come by me and I will help you with that. Okay. So I will be presenting the WolBES, the Island Council expansion, the Commissioner expansion, the Commissioner role a bit, the Governor role, the Court of Audit, the Kingdom Representative role and task. So my colleague gave a brief description already of the WolBES, which we know in English, the law on the public entities of Bonaire, Statia, and Saba. The constitutional law defines how local government and administration work on the three islands, which is Bonaire, Statia, and Saba. It also outlines the power, the structure, and the responsibilities of their governing bodies, which is the Island Council, the Executive Council, and the Governor. Within this law, it also touches the relationship between the Dutch central government and us here in the islands. The WolBES also serves the same purpose for the Caribbean Netherlands as the Gemeentewet. Gemeentewet is seen similar to our WolBES. Those are for the different municipalities in the European Netherlands, but it's adapted to our special constitutional status. So, in 2023, the first expansion indicated to move from 5 Island Council members to 11 by the 1st of January 2027. This was in the first consultation. It was a direct from 5 to 11, and after they consulted in March 2025, they decided this could be done in phases. So the idea now is for 7 Island Council members in 2027. Currently, we have seen a letter that the current State Secretary is busy working on receiving an advice from the Council of State, that's Van Staat. So he would like advice on this before the end of this year, so then we can establish if this is really going to take place. So this is currently pending, and then the idea is, if it goes through for 2031, for us to have 11 island council members. Currently, we have 2 commissioners. The idea is to go to 3 commissioners in 2027 and remain to 3 commissioners in 2027. Currently, there are 23 portfolios that are divided amongst the 2 commissioners. Having an extra commissioner could mean that the workload will be distributed less amongst the 3, which could be a positive thing for us and also for the council expansion with the workload. So in the previous version of the WolBES, in Article 49, the island commissioner usually would have to submit his declaration if he has, or he or she has any businesses, anything that they gain, and usually the initial idea was for it to be done by the governor, and then now it's currently the kingdom representative, and in a proposed version it is remain the kingdom representative. The governor. The term for the governor currently is 6 years. With this law, there were a few changes that were added that I will go through in short. So we all know the governor is appointed by royal decree on the minister's recommendation in the current version. In the 2025 version, it also remains the same, but it also came along with reappointment of the governor for another 6 years. The role of the kingdom representative, as I think some of the island councils experienced this already, of selecting a candidate and creating a confidence committee. This is also still in the current version and still in the proposed version with a few changes. So the idea is in this new common law that it states that the ministry will generally follow the recommendations of the island council unless they have a reason to deviate. The process for it now will, if the new law is implemented, will be for 4 months. And also for the confidentiality and the procedure rules for recruiting a new governor, it allows the regulation, the AMVB, Algemene Maatregelen van Bestuur, which is in English General Administrative Order, that additional rules can be made for this. So I made a brief overview of what is being added extra by the appointment of the governor. So by the reappointment by Article 73A, the minister is based on an island council recommendation. There's a dismissal process, there's a confidentiality process. The council rules still remains. They recommend and consult the kingdom representative in this form. Currently, the kingdom representative is involved, but it is a little more intense in certain areas. The timing is, I think, is a bit shorter. And the dismissal of the governor can be between two weeks to 3 months notice if the relationship between the governor and the council is become, I would say, unmanageable. But before any administrative disruption could take place, they will have to consult the kingdom representative on this, so it does not go automatically. There's a whole process involved. and the meeting notice must be at least 48 hours in advance in the event of this. So the discussion about appointments, reappointment, and dismissals, all these are private. And of course, all the documents are secret documents, considering that the council members, commissioners who are involved, and also the governor took an oath of office. In the current WolBES, Article 90, we have an acting island governor. So in the new proposed version, it's proposing to have an island commissioner replace the seat of the island governor that is designated by the Executive Council. Now, the Executive Council consists of the governor, the two commissioners. And also it continues to state, in the event of absence or incapacity of all the island commissioner, then this will be assumed by the longest serving member of the Island Council. There's also more in-depth information on this. But also there is also Article 91 of the WolBES. Yes. The kingdom representative can also intervene here, and probably the opportunity to have a commissioner as a chair in the Executive Council or the Island Council would not, in the Executive Council will not be possible, because then he could still be able, he or she, representative, could still be able to have a say without considering the previous article that is proposed. So this is the current proposed version. I'm going to touch a bit on a court of audit. So currently, we have a court of audit because of the intervention that took place. Now, they have want to change this law where it would be easier for the islands to choose to work together or choose to have their own court of audit. So the court of audit is usually helping to assist efficiency, checking governments, the legality of policies, and doing audits on government and see how they are spending their money or how the policies are going. I have captured some articles within the WolBES where from the 2023 version, because in the 2025 version, there is no more mention of the kingdom representative because he has now been given more tasks. So in the previous 2023 internet consultation, they were trying to replace some of his tasks with the minister in Holland or by the governor. They will be gone by the governor of our island. So now a few more than what I've placed here, are now sent to the kingdom representative, where he has to has more tasks, and I will outline these for you shortly. So currently, in Article 204 of the WolBES, it outlines a little more detail of what the kingdom representative will have to take care of. So, currently maybe once or twice a year, we would see the kingdom representative. So now in this new law, he will be visiting more regularly the islands. This is to maintain contact and oversight and to maintain awareness of all the local issues. He'll be also advising and mediating in the event there's a disturbance within government and when integrity is at stake, if there's a conflict on poor governance. All these things he will have to report to the Dutch government or the ministers to inform and advise the national government about the situation on the islands, whether or not requested. Okay, so this is a very touchy part for some, council members. So when performing tasks, currently the kingdom representative have certain rules already within our organization where, for example, when a civil servant is being hired, the process takes a little longer than usual. And he will have to make sure that the guidelines, that the government adhere to guidelines on recruiting that person and all the documents are accurate and it's good before appointing. So now currently, in this new coming law, he can attend meetings, all meetings of the island government. He can sit and inspect any documents that he so wishes, or she so wishes, could be a he or she in the future, that they, as the kingdom representative, considers necessary to carry out. In short, for oversight and mediation purposes, the the kingdom representative has full access to government proceedings and records. Also, the kingdom representative can be assigned other tasks through legislation beyond these that I mentioned. So I think I went a little faster than I presented. Okay, we're now going over to the special provisions. This is currently in our law, written as is here. So if the Island Council fails to take any decision required by or pursuant to a law other than this act, or the Public Entities Finance Act, Bonaire, Sint, Eustatius, and Sabre, or fails to take them properly, the Executive Council shall take such decisions. So currently, this is in our law where the Executive Council will have to act if the Island Council fails to do any decisions. Currently, the new version is a little more outlined, and it states that the purpose of this new law is to ensure that legally required actions or decisions of the Caribbean Netherlands Islands, the BES, are carried out if the local authorities fail to act. This is called in the plaatstelling or intervention. So this is a new intervention act that is actually will be written, if it's implemented, within our law, where the kingdom representative can step in on behalf of the Island Council, Executive Council, or governor, should he or she feel, the kingdom representative feel that they're not doing their tasks. Considering that we already experienced it and now it's being implemented in our laws. Okay, so there's a procedure for this and also a deadline. So except in urgent cases, local authorities are first given a chance to comply before the intervention occurs. So if he feels that Stacia is not complying, and maybe they negotiate, and ain't get nowhere, then I guess the kingdom representative will come in. And by this, he or she will have to do what the actions or results are required and the deadline for each island. So this does not only count for Stacia, but of course the rest of our best islands. So different actions may have different deadlines, so then they will act accordingly. There will also be consultations. So before the kingdom representative can intervene, he must consult with the Ministry of the Interior and Kingdom Relation. And if it's over a specific law, then maybe if it's health, then you have to go to the Ministry of Health to deal with that, or finance. It all depends on what it is about, then he will act accordingly. So, also added is transparency and reporting. So all these, any report or any intervention or anything that he does will have to be reported and published in the Gazette or the Stadsblad. And these are sent to the Island Council of each island. And also the involved minister may also have to need to report to the Parliament about the use of this new instrument. This new law also comes with financial responsibility. The cost of executing in the intervention is borne by the relevant island. So even if they intervene, any costs incurred, each island will have to pay for that. And Article 232 defines how the intervention and the powers and the financial aspects are laid out. In Article 232A, the kingdom representative role in the intervention is outlaid. Article 230B is appointment of the supervisory officials. Article 232C, objection and legal challenges. In Article 232D, cooperation and assistance. Article 232E, systematic information. Article 232F, legal remedies and appeals. Did I miss anything? So by 232A, the kingdom representative can withdraw the intervention decision if the island council or the executive council decides or demonstrate willingly to comply with the requirements of the decision. The kingdom representative can also appoint officials to supervise the execution of tasks assigned to the island government by law. These officials will have powers based on specific provisions of the General Administrative Law Act, allowing them to monitor and ensure compliance effectively. There's also the option for citizens can file objections to the kingdom with the kingdom representative against decisions made under the new intervention law. For this, the kingdom representative will act as a defending party if someone challenges a decision in court. The island government itself cannot appeal these decisions. So in gathering this provides a legal channel for citizens while still limiting the intervention to avoid local government blocking. By cooperation and assistance, the island government must cooperate with the execution of the intervention decision. This includes providing officials for implementation, sharing all information needed by the kingdom representative. And the kingdom representative can appoint officials to assist with this implementation. By 232F, only the island council, executive council, and the governor can appeal on certain interventions related to Articles 230, 226A, and 228. And of course, these appeals are done by the Joint Court of Justice of all 6 islands. And we will now be going over to our finance law. I thank you for listening. And later, if you have any questions, I'll be hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa and Majani, for your clear and detailed explanation. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Commissioner Ruben Merkman and also our Island Council lady, Mercedes Lopes-Spanner. I would also like to announce the absence of Commissioner Richeline Leerdam and Island Council member Clyde Van Putten, who are absent this evening with notice. Before we go on to our next presentation, we will have like a 3 minutes break, and I will allow you to grab some refreshments. And when you see me come back, you know that it's time to start.
What about
Welcome back. Yes, welcome back. We will now move to the core of the matter, a detailed technical presentation titled Revision WolBES and FinBES. This will cover the imposed changes and the technical perspective. Don't worry, this is the last presentation. After which we'll have the question segment based on the information that was presented this evening. And then we will have a breakout session where everyone will get the opportunity to sit with the Island Council members and the commissioner. In this case, it's Commissioner Merkman. So you could choose who you would like to discuss with, and they will be at the tables. So without further ado, I would like to invite Ms. Francisca Gibbs and Mr. Roland Tuitt.
Good evening, everyone. A pleasant good night. Protocol already being established. I will not be repeating that. But I would like to indeed introduce myself. I am Francisca Gibbs. I am the newly appointed Director of Bedrijfsvoering of the public entity. And tonight, with my colleague, Mr. Roland Tuitt, Finance Manager, we will be giving you an outline of the key amendments to the Wet Financiën Openbaar Lichaam, Bonaire, Sint Eustatius, and Saba, known as the Finance Act BES. I will be doing a more of the high-level overview of the proposed changes, while my colleague will take you more along into a closer look at the adjustments. And then we would also give a short outline of what the next steps mean for the public entity. The purpose of the revision. In the previous presentation, you would have already heard that there were some feedback, some different sessions held and different consultations held with different entities about the way of governing and concerns on how certain things were going. There was indeed already also an outline given as to that the current governing laws had to be reviewed at a given moment, and this was not done. The purpose of the revision, especially where it concerns the Finance Act BES, is to strengthen the financial governance between the public entities of both the BES Islands and the Dutch government. It also focuses on modernizing the financial oversight and improving accountability. The aim was to integrate lessons learned from the past financial management challenges and advices received from CFT about supervision reports over the years. The changes. Some of the changes are technical and terminological, meaning that there are a lot of changes that just refers to technical things in the law to make it more understandable, and that thereby trying to modernize the language and make it more accessible to the ones reading it. But there are also major structural changes. There's a clear division of responsibilities between the public entities, the Kingdom representative, and the CFT. New selections of financial recovery plans and early warning mechanisms are introduced into the new law. And there are articles that have been revised to help help with the budget approval and deficit control and debt control management of the islands. There's also an introduction of stricter reporting deadlines and guidelines to make the procedure more transparent. If I am to make an example between the current law and the proposed law where it pertains to the task of the CFT, you would see that in the current law, the CFT has a more advisory role and they have very limited sanctioning power. However, in the new law, this is expanded and they have the authority to give binding recommendations and they can even propose intervention protocols. The CFT currently reports annually to BZK, but in the current or in the proposed change, there is a provision where they are requested to report quarterly, not only to BZK, but also to the public entities. The appointment procedure for the members of the CFT also have a slight change. Where the budget cycle is concerned, the budget must be balanced. That has always been something that has been the case. The budget must be balanced. Small typo. But there are indeed certain correction mechanisms that have been introduced to ensure that the deficits are not exceeded. There are new provisions. And with certain things, the Minister of BZK has approval power. However, along with his approval power, the criteria in which he is allowed to use this is more specific. So it gives more guidelines and also more deadlines as to when certain things can be done and how this can be done. Also, budgets that do not have the approval of the Island Council can be approved by national budget imposition, meaning that if a budget is not approved on local level, the minister has the authority to approve a budget. That also doesn't differ from current legislation. However, it is more specific on how it's done. The new law introduces, while we do as public entities currently have the possibility to have rent-free loans from the ministries, there are enhanced loan possibilities. However, they are strictly limited to a specific criteria. There are also new provisions for temporary liquidity support, but these also have clear stipulations on which this needs to be abided by. And the introduction of public disclosure for all debts and loans, meaning any debts that the public entity incurs, this needs to be publicly disclosed. There are also stronger monitoring guarantees and contingent liabilities. On one hand, our reporting cycle will reduce. However, the things that you do have to report on will increase. And the regulations around that has also been enforced. As just indicated, we currently do what we call the quarterly implementation reports. Those are implementation reports that we have to, as public entity, report on the finances every 4 months. In the new legislation, this is reduced. There are 2 moments in which the public entity has to report. Over the first 4 months and over the second 4 months of the year. However, there is also increased conditions because the amount of reporting depends on the level of autonomy, if I can use that as a word, the level of autonomy that you have. So meaning how Can you help me? The
Okay. In the reporting at the beginning of the year, the minister will put each, let's say, island in a category. You have 3 categories. One is light, then you have moderate, and you have heavy. In the light, for you to be in the light category, you have to be a good boy. So you have to do everything correct. And so you have to have an unqualified opinion. You have to be on time with your reporting. You have to also do all the disclosures that you have to do as far as the financial aspects are concerned. So once you do all of those things, you'll be in the light category. When you're in the light category, you don't have to, you would not have to report, and the CFT doesn't have to give their goedkeuring, so their approval to the document, so neither to the reports, they don't have to give it, and the minister also don't have to give any approval. So the only, let's say, instance that approves will be the Island Council. They approve those reports. And then if for you to go to the moderate, then if you don't comply with 1 or 2 of those items, then you go to the moderate. And then if you don't comply with none, and you get let's say, a bad report from the accountants, which is a qualified opinion, then you go in the last category, and that one is the bad one where, yeah, you could say you don't have any powers as far as that is concerned.
Thank you, Mr. Tewitt, for the clarification. Indeed, in the second part, Mr. Tewitt would zoom in more on those, but indeed, as indicated, we do have, in accordance with the new proposal, less reporting cycles. However, that is fairly contingent on the category in which you are defined as being the good boy in the class or not. One of the improvements I believe that there is in the new legislation is there are clearer rules for the Island Council where the financial oversight is concerned, and there is also more authority for the Island Council where the budget is concerned once you are behaving in accordance with applicable rules. There are new provisions for financial recovery and sanctioning. With the introduction of there's an introduction of a formal financial recovery procedure for deficits, if these persist. Mr. Tewitt will go more into that. And in the new legislation, CFT can recommend temporary spending freezes. This is not so in the current legislation. The minister can enforce corrective actions, again, based on the level that you are in. And the sanctioning framework is specifically indicated how this works. So to summarize the high-level changes, there is expanded authority and enforcement powers of the CFT. There is clearer coordination between the island government and the central government role. There are stricter and more transparent procedures, and there are mandatory reporting and compliance regulations that apply. My colleague will delve into the more specific details for you. This part ends my part of the presentation. Mr. Tewitt.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Roland Tuitt, and my function is Unit Finance Manager for OLE. Okay, I'll give an overview of some of most of the changes that will take place in the FinBES. One change is that the budget deadline of September 1 will be eliminated. The minister will not approve a budget that is not approved by the Island Council, because right now he could do that. The implementation report will become, instead of being an implementation report, it will become a management report. So it will, let's say the purpose will change. And as was said, right now you have we report 4 times a year for every 3 months, but in the new setting, you will report every 4 months. And as I said, if you're a good boy, you only have to report twice a year, and if not, you will have to report 3 times a year. The second management report, however, is due on October the 13th. So the deadline will be October the 13th. And they give us a little more compilation time too, which is 6 weeks. Right now, it was 3 weeks, but they expanded it to 4 weeks. But now the new law will expand it a little more, where we will have 6 weeks to prepare those reports. The accounting system remains the income and expenditure system. As you know, there's an income and expenditure system, and in Holland they use the cash basis system, which is different from us. The new law will demand additional control and demand additional accountability for the large multi-annual special allowances. The task of the head of finance will be eliminated. Right now, you have a whole task that the head of finance could do. That will be eliminated. The island ordinance on financial management will become important because the functioning of the management will be stipulated in it. The interest rate risk standard will be attached to the budget. Because as you know, in the new law, the entity will be able to borrow. However, they can only borrow for investments. If you have a deficit, you cannot borrow to cover the deficit. As was mentioned already, you will have 3 levels of supervision of the budgetary control. 3 levels. A light, moderate, and a heavy supervision level will be imposed. The Minister of Beisetka stipulates the level of supervision on the budget, which will be stipulated in a supervision letter. So at the beginning of the year, the entity will receive a supervision letter, and in there will be stipulated which category you fall in. The budget supervision will be stipulated based on criteria that still has to be established. A supervisory framework will be drawn up. The supervision is dependent on the reserves and resistance equity of OLE, the applying of losses in the financial statements, the economic and social development, management and control supervision, where the expectation is that you get a clean opinion, an unqualified audit opinion. and high or low risk findings in the management report. Oh, I forget to. Yeah. A balanced budget entails structural revenues will cover structural expenditures. And the budget must be complete, involving all the goals and things that you want to do. And at the same time, it has to be realistic, and it must have adequate disclosure notes. A light supervision level does not require the advice of the CFT nor approval of the Minister of Basic Care. A moderate supervision is required when the budget is not balanced, there is a loss in the financial statements, so you have a deficit, and the budget and the financial statements are not submitted on a timely basis to BZK and CFT. A moderate supervision requires the budget to get an advice from the CFT and approval from the minister. Furthermore, a third management report over the last 4 months will have to be submitted. So if you're in the light category, you only have to submit 2 reports, but if you go in the moderate category, then you'll have to submit 3 reports. Now we go to the heavy supervision, is when there is no approved budget. The minister will have to give permission to enter into obligations. So if you don't have then the minister will step in and he will, you could say, establish a budget for the island. Light supervision needs to have a clean audit opinion, no high risk in management reports, and the budget and financial statements are submitted on a timely basis. There is moderate supervision when 1 or more points in the financial supervision are not met. Then an improvement plan will have to be drawn up. So once you're not in the light category, you go in the moderate category, you have to establish an improvement plan. When the improvement plan does not lead to improvements, critique on the financial supervision, a qualified audit opinion, high risk in management report, budgets and management reports are submitted late, then heavy supervision kicks in. I think it was that one, right?
What does that mean for us? Yeah, we just skip all of this.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I think those were the important points that we wanted to stress as far as the FinBES changes are concerned, because we have the details. There are a lot of details as far as the changes are concerned, but we'll go through that. Thank you for your attention.
This ends our part of the presentation. Indeed, as my colleague said, we also have a detailed overview of all the changes in the different articles. We would not burden you with those details at this time because they are vast, but if you do have questions, we're open for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs and Mr. Tuitt. We will now open the floor for questions. So if you have any questions pertaining to the presentation regarding the WolBES FinBES, this is your opportunity to do so. The floor is open. We have a mic runner, Ms. Fleming. So if you have a question, you could just show your hand and she'll come to you. For those of you who are viewing online, I would like to let you know that we are also monitoring questions online. So if you have a question online, I will read it out loud.
Simple question. Can I ask? Hello? Can I?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, my question is from the beginning, it shows the process how the best laws are created. My question is, does it work that way in reality? Because you say, there's a process, the second chamber has its role, the first chamber have the role, and then at the end, the king signs. Do it work like that? Because when I see, a lot of changes, it look like things have gone backwards and they need to tighten up with different laws, and it looks very strange where most islands have what you call unqualified opinion, accounting opinion, but yet you see these tightening taking place. So that's the question.
I would like to call the ladies from the registrar's office, Miss Humphreys and Miss Robin Spanner.
Mr. Simmons, can you repeat your questions, please? No.
Okay, simple. The process that you had where it starts and then there's a consultation period and then it goes to the second chamber, first chamber. And my question, because sometimes you follow the news and depends on what law is being dealt with, it gives the impression like the second chamber and the first chamber are the same. For example, so it's just a question about the process. In reality, does it correspond with basically what the roles are for the second chamber, the first chamber, their roles?
As far as I have seen, that is usually how it goes in the process that I described. I don't know another way to answer your question.
Okay, let me go more in detail. So when a law comes from the second chamber, the first chamber looks at it and say yea or nay. There shouldn't be any debate, the way I understand it.
I think the point of having the first and the second chamber, one supervises.
So when a law goes to the first chamber, they vote on it and
yes
either vote down or with no opinion. The reason why is I have seen laws where when it comes to the first chamber, they send it to the Raad van Advies, for advice. And my question, if that's their task, to me it should be sent back to the second chamber, and the second chamber should deal with it, because I have seen matters where they send it to the Raad van Advies. That's the correct name?
Raad van State.
Yes.
Back for the advice?
Yes.
Is it the first chamber sending it back to the Raad van State,
yes.
or is it the government who drafted the law?
No, I'm just looking purely at the process. It's now at the first chamber to deal with the law, and then something happens where it gets stuck and goes around. And my question is, to me, that is not their task. Their task should be yes or no.
Yes or no.
And so I could understand in reality things don't really work how it should. But sometimes, even in a caretaker's government, they should be taking care and not doing things like that. But it, so my question is
Does it work?
trying to look at what they put on paper and reality, does it work? Because I get them, you know, the impression is created, like I mentioned, based on the different revisions, it looks like, hey, these islands are behaving very bad. Let's tighten the rein, let's put reporting, let's come down. But then when you look at accountant report that comes up, it gives the impression that things are going good. So what is the need for you to basically put things in a law, in detail to me, they are executing in a law, instead of, hey, the law is basically working, things are getting better. So that's just like my concern.
Yes. I think it's more of a comment than it is a question because I'm not in the first or the second chamber, so I can't really, because I have never witnessed what you're describing. But generally, this is how the process usually goes. If you look at it in the view as you're in your own role as council member, if there is a policy being drafted, it's drafted by the department, the relevant department. It's then passed on to the executive council, who then has to approve it. And then a final stage of approval for certain things have to go through the island council. And they can also say yes or no. And then when you say no, for example, it's supposed to go back to the government, the executive council, who can then say, well, are we going to take the remarks of the island council and make an adjustment? Or the island council themselves, during the debate, can say, let's adjust it, and they can make an amendment. So the same way basically how we do it, they also do it, but on that level. And they have an extra chamber who does an extra approval. Any other questions?
Good evening. I hear it's so depressing in here that I want to run away and go home. I hear mention imposed changes. And I don't understand why imposed changes, why you're talking about imposed changes. I have another question. We speak about the changes to the kingdom representative and his supervision. How does that relate to the supervision of the island council? I heard a mention about appointment procedures to the safety, new appointment procedures. I don't get a feeling when things were discussed as changes, whether or not they are in our benefit or they are against us. For example, when you say that the deadline of the 1st of September is no more, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? It's just said. It's no longer a deadline, but the general person don't know what that means. Mm-hmm. Does it mean you have a week more, 2, 3 weeks, a month, 3 months more to give in your budget? So I don't get the impression whether it's a good thing, whether it's a bad thing, whether we move forward, whether we move backward. The 3 levels of supervision, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Are we taking a step forward? Are we taking a step backward? In my opinion, a lot of the things are steps forward, but they're not presented in that way. So I would like to know what is imposed changes, and also what is meant when they said starten stemt zonder last. What does it mean? Starten stemt and starten lid stemt zonder last. And the reason I say that is you cannot dictate to a starten lid what he is voting for. Whether you make any agreement with the Dutch government, When it reaches to Parliament, Parliament takes over. And it can throw those agreements out the window. It can come with amendments. It can make new agreements, and it can pass the law.
Okay. Thank you for your questions, plural. I want to remark on the last question because I don't feel that that question is for us. Currently, we only gave the info. And as for if this info is negative or positive, we feel that that is an answer that only commissioners and island council members can answer because they're the ones that have to determine if this is feasible for the government or not. So that question, I would advise that during the breakout session, you direct that question to one of the members of council or perhaps even the commissioner of finance who is here. If the deadline, if it complicates the work, those are questions that he can give more context to. And then your first question was imposed changes. Can you explain to me where you saw that? Oh.
What you said? The words. The imposed changes. Just changes. I guess just changes. The reason.
All laws are imposed. They are passed and then they are imposed. So when you speak about the imposed changes, it's as if something is being imposed on us and we cannot do anything about it. But that is not true. There is a consultation process. Maybe you're not agreement with the consultation process that they have, but it's there. And it's on black and white. And it's not even an internet consultation, it's a direct consultation.
Okay, thank you. I believe there was perhaps a mix-up in choosing words, because I think what the MC meant is just changes. So we could make that correction in her wording. She meant changes of the law. And then your second question was? Yeah, he asked so many things. I already said it? Oh, okay, yeah. All right. So let me just, Mr. Simmons, did I answer everything you needed?
Maybe I can answer. I think that especially, I surely believe that Mr. Chewett knows whether something is making his life easier or is making his life more difficult. I asked you, maybe that is the question. What is the role of the Island Council?
In this?
When you look at the new supervisory role of the Kingdom Representative, how does that relate to the role of the Island Council? Because the law,
can you be a bit more specific?
It is stated in the document that the Island Council remains the primary supervision or supervisor of the Executive Council. The Kingdom Representative adds to that, broadens that. And the reason why I say this, there is a lot of self-correction mechanisms in the law that it does not lead to the extreme position where you have to get an instruction, where you have to get higher supervision, where you have to get a lot of the things that are spoken about. But there is a role, it says it clearly, the first one supervisory role responsible is the Island Council. And a lot of things only play out when things escalate to a certain level that cause those things to come into play.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I know.
Yes, good evening. I'm called Nyeko Paul. In Statia, you can call me Fleming or you can call me Spanner.
Okay.
I know you guys are surprised, but I'm from the Odongo's family, Dr. Odongo. I think this is my first time to engage in a community dialogue, and I'm so proud for the opportunity. I think the previous question from my colleague is very, very, very important, and I propose that you could write all the questions one by one so that you answer them at once. I have 4 areas.
Okay.
One, from the presentation, I heard that there's a confusion between the previous state secretary and the new one, and you know, I follow so much of geopolitics nowadays, and government over the world is falling. Recently, we had the French government falling within 14 hours. They had different prime ministers in 14 hours. So now, I also know that the Dutch government is a little bit fragile, so they fall anytime. They can collapse anytime. Just like when you're in a bar, you take a bottle of beer, so they fall. So are we going to be having new state secretary with new rules? Do we need to be reminding them every day of what the previous state ministers agreed on? So for how long are we going to present ourselves to a new minister? So why don't we have a solid ground so that even if a minister is for 2 hours, he or she knows what the previous minister has signed, and it is now by law. Then number 2 is the representation of the island on the decision-making in Holland. I base my point on expansion.
Sorry, Mr. Paul, can you repeat question 2? I couldn't hear you.
Question 2 is on representation, on the laws that is passed in Holland. I followed very well, and I saw that there is limited representation of the island in laws making in Holland. So now on expansion, I didn't hear a proposal of expanding more numbers of commissioners, or even now the elections are coming. Why don't they expand more so that we have 2 representatives of Statia in Dutch parliament, straight in Holland, elected by the locals here? So why can't we have a representative from Statia seated in Holland to represent us in making those laws? So why can't we have that proposal in the new law? Because now we are seeing 23 portfolio for 2 commissioners. Then number 3, my concern is about, I see there's a confusion between the kingdom representative and the governor. Do we have an organogram? Is the governor responding to the kingdom representative, then the kingdom representative responding to the king? So I don't know who is higher in this hierarchy of power. Is the kingdom representative higher than the governor, or the governor is before the representative?
Okay, Mr. Paul, it sounds like you have a lot of questions.
No, just one more. On the representation, there's number 4 that I noted that is very important, that if there is an intervention, the island has to pay for the cost for intervention. Who called for that intervention in the first place? So if we didn't invite them to intervene, why should the island pay for that intervention? So those are my few points, and I beg to end here. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for your questions, and I actually think that some of your questions are actually feedback towards the legislative changes. It's important to understand how what our construct is. So the laws are not changed by us, nor the proposal of the law change is by Statia or Seba or Bonaire. It's done by the Netherlands. So we just receive it, and then we have a consultation period. You give your feedback, and whatever is decided is what is implemented. And there's not much that you can't really shy away from that process, if you can understand what I'm trying to say. I got so much lost in what you were saying. I think there was another point that I wanted to comment on. You said that there is a conflict between, or you have the impression that there is a conflict between the Island Council and the Kingdom representative role. Yes, that's the governor's role? The hierarchy. Yes, okay. The RV is not part of our organizational chart. The RV, the Kingdom representative, he is a civil servant of the Netherlands, actually. And he is the layer of supervision between the Netherlands and us on their behalf. Does that answer your question? Yes? Okay. Okay. Also, Mr. Paul, on your question about representation in the Netherlands in the parliament, I believe you said, or yes? We don't have that opportunity unless you run for elections in the Netherlands. Yeah, we're working on it, right? Okay. But he said in parliament, and okay, no, not in parliament. Yes, so the islands are currently in discussion about formalizing a way that they can have a representative stationed in the Netherlands. Currently, it's still on a discussion how it will be done and how that will be funded, because of course everything comes with funding. So it is an idea, it's on the table, but it's still being planned and discussed, and to see how they can make it a reality. Does this answer your question? Yes, okay. Anyone else? Over here. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you had a mic. Go ahead.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Vernon Illich. I am the manager of the Social Support Unit, and I have a few questions. My first question is leading to the Kingdom representative. It is mentioned that the Kingdom representative has the authority to step in at moments where there are decisions that are not suitable to him, or where the council cannot reach to a decision with a particular issue. Mm-hmm. So my question is, at that moment, how long would it take for a decision to be made by him, and with whom he would make that decision? Would that decision be made by he himself, or would it be taken to a committee where then the decision will be brought to the council or to the community of the island?
Okay. Okay, thank you for your question. Very important questions. My colleague will look at for those answers, because there are so many additional things and tasks and roles that that position is now receiving with the new legislative changes. So she will look it up, and then we'll circle back to you with an answer.
Secondly, it is also stated that a complaint, if a citizen or anyone would like to make a complaint, they can make this complaint to the Kingdom representative. And my question is, if the Kingdom representative does not satisfactorily deal with the complaint, where is the next step? What will be followed after that? Where can a person then go if that is not a satisfactory?
Currently, I believe complaints can also go to the ombudsman.
Okay.
If you've ever heard of that role. Are you
Yes.
familiar with it?
Yes, I do.
I believe the ombudsman is also an area where one can go and deal with complaints or give grievances when they feel dissatisfied or unsatisfied with parts of government performances. So that is also an, I want to call it an organ, an institution that you can go and complain.
Okay.
But generally, I think, are you asking the question based of when you have exhausted your local options?
Correct.
Yes, okay then, yes. I'd say ombudsman is also an area where you can go. And from my own personal experience with the ombudsman, they tend to listen to your complaint and also help you find a solution if they can. So they go on, they make extra steps on how you can regain the satisfaction that you're looking for.
So in other words, you're saying that the ombudsman still plays a role, even though the kingdom
I
relations...
believe so, yes. I haven't read any changes in the ombudsman, no, right? No, so
Yeah.
it will remain the same.
Okay. The last question is FinBES. Mr. Chewit mentioned at a given moment when there is a decision to be made when you fall in the heavy category. This is question this is A of number 3. When you fall in the heavy category, and who is the person that comes in then and gives the budget, and what is the budget based on? How would they determine the budget at that given moment?
Mr. Tuit. Thank you.
As far as when you fall in the heavy category, then the minister has powers, and he can use the power to because you don't have a budget, he will present a budget, and he will give the authority that you can make the expenditures within the budget that he approved at that moment.
Understood. But then what his budget then, the budget that he will present, would be based on what?
Well, I'll say that the Island Council will have to deal with that point, because the authority, look, I think I'll give the Island Council some, let's say, advice. I think you have to look carefully at the divisions of tasks that is being presented in the changes that are taking place or that are being proposed, that the kingdom representatives get some more power, the CFT gets some more power, the Island Council gets a little bit more power, or not power, but tasks. And I think you have to look and see if the balance is still there. And that is an important point that you have to look carefully at during this process.
Okay, that will require some work to really deal with presenting a budget on a particular set of issues that you may have, but that's okay. B of 3, FinBES as well. We understand the light, the moderate, and the heavy categories that you can have. It was stated that at the beginning of the year, you would be placed in a category. So the question that I have is there a possibility during the process of the year that you can become less? Well, if you're heavy, I don't know how less you could go then. But the question is, if you can either grow in that year, or if you can become less. So, for example, if you're placed in the light category at the beginning, is there a possibility that during the year you can fall back to moderate or even heavy? Or if you are in heavy at the beginning, if there is a possibility that you can grow to moderate or light during the year?
Mr. Tuit, I will let you answer in just a second. Thank you, kind gentlemen, I don't know your name, for all your questions. In the interest of time, we want to round off this segment, so I'll let Mr. Tuit answer, and I'll take, you had a question too, Ms. Roosevelt. I'll take 2 more questions after this, and then we're going to go over to the breakout session.
I don't think that there's a possibility to grow during the year. That's why the minister, he places you in the category based on the criteria that is established, and for that year, you will remain in that category. Then if you misbehave, then in the following year, you will be placed in a different category. So let's say if you're in the light category, and you didn't comply with certain things, then naturally the next year you will be placed in the moderate category. And if you still don't do things the correct way, then maybe the 3rd year you could be placed in the heavy category. It doesn't go through, it's for a complete year.
In your presentation, in the beginning, you were talking about where you talk about the 30,000, if I'm correct, of the baronas in the Best Islands, compared to the 20 million in 18 million. Sorry for giving them 2 more million, but the 18 million in the Netherlands. You talk about the online consultations, but I heard Mr. Simmons was saying that they're not, did I hear you correctly, that they're online or they are not online? Which one is it?
They're online consultations.
So which means for us as locals, we have to know when they are. You also said that some of the time you all don't know. So if you all don't know, how would we know?
Exactly.
And that is a little bit very alarming to me, because we're not sure even if our concerns would be addressed. It is much more difficult to comprehend that we don't know when it's happening or when we could give our input, even though it's 30,000 versus 18 million.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you for that comment. And yes, that is something that I believe the Island Council has mentioned there. They struggle with being able to be part of, or more opportunity for dialogue when it comes to the changes or even new laws that they want to implement. We are limited to our internet consultation.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to say something. I sat here and I listened, and I tell myself I was not going to say anything. But knowing myself, I cannot keep quiet. First of all, I would like to know if the Island Council has come to a consensus or an idea on what they think about these proposed changes, or are they also expecting or waiting then for the public to be able to give their point of view so that they can form a joint reply to these changes. And I also believe that the idea of having this session this evening is so others can think along. What I am a little disappointed in is that so little persons have turned out, because this is very important for us. And then I'm not talking down on the points that others have mentioned here, but I also think that what I have heard then is like we are resigned already to these changes, and whatever is said and that's it. I heard a lot tonight about the different changes, and my take on it is I find a lot of those changes are an insult to the authority of the Island Council. The Island Council, which is supposed to be the highest body on the island, is now negated to more or less a rubber stamp, I can say, because if I was listening, if I understood what Ms. Humphrey said earlier, pertaining to if the Island Council, for instance, does not do something with pertaining to a law, the Executive Council can take that over. Am I understanding that correctly?
Currently, it's in the law, yes.
Yeah, but what is this? Because I can recall, I think it was in 2015 or it was before that time, when there was big talk about dualism. There was big talk about dualism where, you know, before we had the Island Council and the Executive Council, the commissioners were also Island Council members. And that was separated whereby you get commissioners who were not Island Council members anymore, which we have. So how now all of a sudden can the Island Council, the Executive Council, take up a particular role that is designated to the Island Council, and we are talking about good governance here? This is not happening in these proposed roles that I am seeing. Secondly, Ms. Humphreys also made a comparison between what was proposed in 2023 and what is now proposed in 2025, a vast difference between the two. And then you're not even talking about what is current and what is now going to be proposed. And when I look at the proposed changes to the WolBES especially, you are shutting down the government completely. Their hands are tied behind their back already, and now their feet are being tied. And of course, you want that government lives up to what is expected of them, report on time, make sure that everything is above board that you are doing. But, sorry, a lot of the changes are tying their hands, and I would really like to know what especially the Island Council thinks about all these changes that are coming in. I find it's absurd, and it's really an insult to their the office that they have. And I'm looking at what is the sense of having elections if you are telling me already, once I go into government and you feel, because it is not even stated what are the criteria for you to jump in and take over. They are telling you if the kingdom representative feel a certain way or some other body feel a certain way, they can come in. And then they're talking about appointed officials. Who are these appointed officials? Civil servants from the Netherlands that are going to be those appointed officials above our highly elected officials here? I don't understand what is going on. And if I was the Island Council, I would really protest this.
Thank you, Ms. Tatum, for those comments. Some of your questions are meant for the council members to answer directly, so I welcome council members to start joining the breakout session tables so that everyone has the opportunity to ask those questions to them directly. I have one online question. Ms. Gibbs, if you can. Tina, would you like to announce that question for me?
So the question online is, how does the appointment of CFT members differ? What are the changes?
With regard to the appointment of the CFT members, I think that is a very valid question, and a question that I also have. What we see with regard to the proposed changes is that the CFT remains a body of 3 representatives. In the current legislation, it says that the chair is appointed by the minister, and voordracht is done by a proposal for appointment of one of the members is done by the combined 3 islands, and the other member is appointed by Holland. What you see in the proposed change is that the first two articles, they remain, but the article with regard to the appointment of the third person by Holland, that is no longer there. And the question is, at least one of the questions that I have is also why? It is the intent that we are in the consultation phase, and as an internal organization, we also have the obligation to provide our feedback to the legal department to give their response to the consultation. And this is one of the points that I did address. So it is a good question, and it's one I hope that we have an answer on going forward.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. We will now move over to the breakout session. So I would like to invite our Island Council members to take their tables. And for our visiting guests, you are free to dialogue with our Island Council members and also with Commissioner Ruben Merkman. So we have 3 tables. 2 tables are reserved for Island Council members. And 1 table we have our Commissioner Merkman.
I'm going to give you some bullet soup, 2 pieces of bread.
Hey. I think it's up to road.
Yeah? We have come to the end of our community dialogue for this evening. I would like to thank you, our community, for your participation. I would also like to thank our island council members and Commissioner Merkman for being active participants and for being transparent. Like I said, we have come to the end of our community dialogue. Until another time, I want to say thank you. Well, when they want.